Want some, get some. How about those friggin' Pirates?
Yes, I am a pirate.
You have to go with the Pirates because, of course, they have cannons and everything.
It's a pirate's life for me.
Be proud of who you are and what you are. You're Pirates.
It is a first down. Pirates.
Because when you're at East Carolina, you go for it every time. Or you don't coach at East Carolina, you don't come to East Carolina, you don't play at East Carolina with a weak heart. Write it.
I think I've ever been in a building as loud as that was. It was deafening in there.
We will get to Omaha. I can promise you that.
Painted purple all night long in Eastern North Carolina.
You're watching The Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.
Yeah. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode.
Welcome into the Sports Objective podcast. We are talking Pirate baseball today, what you would expect us to be discussing this time of year. The Pirates, of course, victorious on Tuesday, 12-4 over the Rice Owls with that 12-run bottom of the eighth inning. And, in addition to talking a little about the here and now, we're going to be more focused on the big picture of East Carolina athletics or in baseball, specifically as it pertains to NIL. And under that Team Boneyard hat, you, of course, have the 23 club. And right now, very excited to be joined by one of the guys leading the way with that. And that is, of course, ECU Baseball Alum from 2001 to 2004. And that's Mike Harrington. Mike, we appreciate your time.
Bubba, thanks for having me. Glad we finally linked up.
No doubt. I appreciate you spending a half hour with us as we talk Pirate baseball and specifically the 23 club. Before we dive into the 23 club, let's just give Pirates out there, that aren't familiar with yourself, just a background. Like I mentioned, you played for East Carolina for Keith LeClaire as well as Randy Mazey from 2001 to 2004. Had the opportunity to take part in a couple of super regionals and a whole lot of success. You were a teammate of Cliff Godwin in 01, of course. So tell folks about your background with the Pirates.
Yeah, I'm a hometown boy. I'm born and raised Greenville, North Carolina. Played at Rose High School, played Winterville Little League, Babe Ruth, the whole thing. So I grew up in a baseball town, and really the dream was, right? The dream is play college baseball, and really growing up, ECU, we'd go to the games. It was really enjoyable. Coach O was there, who was awesome. So, staying home and playing for ECU was the goal. And I got that opportunity with Coach LeClaire. Really didn't know if it was going to work out or not, but he brought me in his office one day after a camp and said he wanted to be a Pirate. So what do? You say yes immediately, and you get to work. But I played actually redshirted. So I actually was a freshman in 99 to 2000. So I redshirted and then played from 01 to 04 with a bunch of phenomenal guys. Cliff, of course, Eric Backich at Clemson, Nick Schnabel, Bryant Ward, Clayton McCullough, and then all the guys that I played with in the career, Ryan Jones, John Poppert, the Lawhorns, Ron Norwood, these guys. So really got around a lot of good baseball. I think I mentioned this at the banquet. You're not going to find my name in any record books. Of course, I was a utility guy. I was there if you needed me. Worked my butt off. I was a teammate guy. But you play 4 or 5 years in any Division I athletics, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, or what. To me, that's a big accomplishment. So enjoyed my time there, did a tremendous amount for me later in life. And, glad to be giving back and being here and maybe help the next generation.
Yeah, like you're saying, folks that haven't done it don't understand the commitment and everything that's involved just year-round. And so much hard work goes into what you see on game day and the success that's had or not had. And unfortunately, in terms of East Carolina baseball, pretty much nothing but success down through the years. And obviously it's gone to a whole nother level under the leadership of your former teammate Cliff Godwin over the last decade. But before we dive into the 23 club and the origins of it, you talk about Coach LeClaire and him coming into the program, what an impact he had in those 5 seasons, 3 straight #1 seeds. But to you specifically, what's a moment or two maybe that Pirate fans don't know about as far as Coach LeClaire, or maybe impacting you personally? He left such an indelible impact on the program.
Yeah, Coach was one of those guys where, he'd always talk about brutal honesty, right? Brutal honesty, and coming in as like all of us, right? We were the studs on our teams growing up. We were the best players usually, or one of the best players on, in our leagues. Coach comes in and says, look, I'm going to be brutally honest with you, if nothing else, right? I think you deserve that. The program deserves that. And, if you weren't going to cut it, right? If you weren't going to cut it at a position, if you weren't going to cut it on the team, he was going to let you know that. And he was very brutally honest with me from the get-go. I was signed as a catcher, came in first year, didn't go so hot. Hopefully, didn't do as well as I wanted to. And he looked at me at the end of the season, kind of exit interviews after the first year. He said, hey, Mike, you can go ahead and take your catcher's equipment and throw it in the trash. And I'm like, okay, well, thank you. That's pretty brutal. But he said, I want you to play infield. We're going to move you. We're going to try some new things. We're going to go from there. And that was, I really appreciated that. I mean, at the time when I came in, we had Cliff, we had some really good players. And then Clayton came in from Vanderbilt, right? And of course, phenomenal player, played with him growing up as well. We went to high school together. So it just made sense. It made sense for me to move, let those guys do what they do best. But that kind of stuff was team-wide. I mean, he was going to tell you like it was at that level of baseball. That's what you got to have. And I think Cliff continues with that as well. And, sometimes it's very difficult, right? It's very difficult to make those decisions, but it's fair. It's only fair to the player, and it's fair to the entire team if you can do that. So it was a big learning, growing up curve for me, but I'm glad he did it.
One of the things you always hear from Cliff now is reflecting back, on the, some of his thought process behind Mission Week. And it wasn't necessarily called Mission Week, I don't think, under Coach LeClaire, but if it was not, it was very similar, and really probably even a step above what Coach Godwin does now, because now, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on your perspective, in this day and age, you cannot do some of those things involved with the crawling under barbed wire and so forth in the current premium lot, former white lot there behind Town Bank Tower. And so what are some of your memories of what would now be called Mission Week, if it was not Mission Week then?
Oh, I try not to think about it a whole lot, to be honest with you, Bubba.
I bet.
I'll never forget one time we were in the weight room, and after we had done some stuff, and we kind of crossed paths with the football team every once in a while, and then this guys come in and they were like, "Man, I'm glad I don't play baseball," and that I think that says it all right there, right? As much as those guys have to do, but the whole point of that, the whole point of testing the obstacle courses, which we called it obstacle course. We had 300s, which are the 300-yard sprints. All of that stuff was completely about mental toughness, right? It was 100% about mental toughness. It wasn't about how strong you were, how fast you were, any of that sort of stuff. And, if Coach LeClaire, his foresight was, it's a 56-game schedule plus hopefully playoffs, regionals, those sort of things. Like what we do now in the fall, what we do now in the winter, that's what matters at the end of the season, right? And you've got to have the mental toughness to battle through when you're tired, when you're hurt, when you don't want to be there. Look, there's tons of time. You can ask any of those guys. I mean, we used to run 300s on Wednesdays, right? And then we would measure our weeks based on how many more days we had to run 300s. So it was just in our mind constantly. And, But looking back on it now, I mean, getting through that sort of stuff, I'm like, oh my God, if I can get through that, right, in life, I can get through anything. Everything else is a piece of cake. And I think that did more for a lot of guys than they realized. It did a lot for me because I was struggling on a lot of that stuff, as I went through it. But, got through it, made me feel like $1 million. And, those guys today, they carry that same mentality. I can see it. It matters. It's mental toughness. It's getting through when you're hurt, when you're tired, when you don't want to be there. And we're seeing it now at the end of the season. These guys stepped it up and they're fighting, and off we go.
Exactly. Pirates have been without a few of their top arms. Unfortunately, in the last 24 hours or so, received some very unfortunate news about Trey Savage, but Coach Godwin, as he so often does, did an excellent job of, kind of putting the truth out there and not letting the rumors continue to spread concerning Trey. And fingers crossed that we'll have him back for regional weekend. But overcame so much adversity to win a 5th straight regular season title. And we were discussing that pre-show off the air. Just that's remarkable, because you look at the success that was had in the Keith LeClaire era, winning 46, 47 games on an annual basis and 3 straight number 1 seeds. But as much success as was had, you only had 1 regular season title, and that was in 2001, which just really speaks to what's been accomplished these last 5 years.
Yeah, I just, I don't think we really fully appreciate how hard it is, number one, to win 40 games in a season. And Coach LeClaire would always talk about that. 40 games, that's sort of the goal. That's the measuring stick. That's the start of the measuring stick. People don't understand how difficult that is. People also don't understand how difficult it is to win that championship, conference championship. And it matters, right? Some folks, it doesn't really matter. Let's get to the tournament, and then we'll win that, and we'll go to the regionals. Well, if you look at our history, the tournament is not our bread and butter, right? I mean, the conference tournament is not our bread and butter. So, being able to grind through a season, and it's different. I mean, every one of these teams, we talked about it. The talent difference between all of these teams is very small, right? Everybody's good. Everybody can hit. Everybody can pitch. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. And what matters is, and what separates teams is those intangibles. I think really is that culture, is that sort of stuff that East Carolina has built over 25, 30 plus years of knowing how to win, guy after guy, team after team, and it's just a snowball effect. So, it's really, really impressive. And I know sometimes we get the knock, they're the best team that's never been to Omaha. Well, guess what? It's hard as hell to get to Omaha too. And, we will break that glass ceiling eventually, but you got to appreciate what this program has done and what this team has done specifically this year to get us to a point to win again. I mean, it's really cool to see year after year, and kudos to all them involved.
Honing in on the 23 club, tell us about the origins. I had a conversation back early in the season, and shortly after the 23 club was announced, right there prior to the start of the season, and going into that UNC weekend, a big victory over the Tar Heels in Fayetteville to even the series at that point, and had some conversations that day with Davey Penny, one of your former teammates. Also Warren Gaspar, a.k.a. Warren G, was there. And I know those guys, as well as a whole lot of others, have really bought in when it comes to the 23 club and giving back.
Yeah, in fact, all of those guys, we had a bunch of us, and first time we've done this in years. I mean, years. But, Glenn Tucker and Davey put together sort of a little weekend at the lake for all of us. And we had a bunch of guys show up. We wanted more, but, life happens, right? But we all showed up, and we were having a good old time. And as all good ideas happen, right, around a campfire with a beer in your hand, we said, hey, you guys heard about this NIL thing? And that was sort of the kernel of the conversation. So we were chatting about it. We thought about it. And what ended up was hey, let's just, let's make some calls. If we want to compete, right? If we want to compete at the highest level, we're top 10, top 15 program perpetually, like we want to stay, reluctantly, we're going to have to get involved in this. And we did. But we have a little slightly different lens on what the ultimate goal of the 23 club is. Yes, it's for opportunities for our current players, right? It's to be able to attract and retain the best talent, right? But it's also what we feel a big benefit is going to be in the long run is an alumni network of former players who are now in the professional industry of whatever they do, right? Jeremy Schumacher's a super high-end custom home builder, right? He's part of it. Jason Howard, financial advisor. Chad Tracy, right? Everybody knows Chad. So we want to create this alumni network that also helps guys after baseball. And I think, if we can create that and do it correctly, not only is it going to help us currently with our team, it's going to help us with these guys now giving back to the club, giving their time, their resources, and it's a snowball. And, we want to be at the forefront of all that and dedicating the 23 clubs specifically to baseball. We don't want to take away from what Team Boneyard's doing because those guys are awesome. We want to be able to help them as well. But this is our dedicated focus for baseball that are by former players, for players. And, we're just getting started. We want to continue to build it. It's been a slow walk a little bit for us because we're still trying to figure out and navigate exactly what we cannot do. But so far, we've got a tremendous amount of feedback, positive. We got a lot of good ideas, and we want to, really build upon what we've done this year.
Yeah, love that perspective. Really, what NIL was intended to be, not what it has in many cases become, especially football and men's basketball where you're trying to buy a winner. But, it's great to see, more recent guys like the St. Louis Cardinals, Alec Burleson, I know Burley, as well as other more recent players, Harrison Eldridge, kind of an in-between there, a little bit closer to your time.
And there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of guys that, have given. I mean, we just, it's hard to get to everybody. And we want to give everybody their and some of these guys don't care. They're like, look, I'm just going to give because that's what I do. Don't worry about it. Right. And it's like, well, that's awesome, but, we want to recognize these former players who are helping and giving back because it is important. Like, it's important to see these guys who've put their blood, sweat, and tears in this program. And now we're kind of giving back on the back end and helping with what they've done, becoming professionals and successful in life. And the guys that are playing now, and I didn't have this foresight as much, but I wish I did when I was a player, being able to tap guys who played before me, right? When I was looking for my first job, right? Man, it would have been awesome to be able to tap a network of former alumni players who say, oh, yeah, so here's another ECU brother right here. Let's give him some advice. Let's give him some networking opportunities. Let's get him started on the right foot in his career. I mean, that would have been worth more to me than, $500 in out money all day of the week. Right. And that's really, I think, the long-term vision and the goal of what we want to do. And if we can do that correctly, again, we should be one of the top opportunities for players to stay with us, to give their blood, sweat, and tears, and to contribute to the program. So that's really the ultimate opportunity.
Kind of spending a little time on the story that Coach Godwin shared earlier this season, I guess leading into the season, was how a particular ACC program came after Trey Savage, made him a very lucrative offer, and and I think Trey had some of that perspective that you were just talking about, that we're going to do everything we can to take care of him and pay him what we can, but at the same time he understood the opportunity he has at East Carolina with Coach Godwin, Coach Knight, and staff, and everything, the entire picture at ECU, and that his payday, that even bigger payday, will come from ECU just like it could from another institution.
Yeah, and I think look, everybody's got to make their own decision. And I wouldn't fault anybody for making any other decision. Right, it's what's best for them.
Right.
But I do think we need a little bit more of a long-term focus when it comes to this stuff. If a player is looking for the highest and best offer year in and year out from a program, this is my personal opinion, that player is probably not an East Carolina player, if that makes any sense, right? Like that's not the culture that has been established. That's not what exactly I feel like we're looking for. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far. And I know it's new. I still know there's a lot of moving parts here, but again, we want to reward the guys that reward the program and give to the program, and are loyal to the program. That's the goal. We're not out there, dangling checks in front of recruits trying to get them to come. That's not our focus. And we want to continue to let the current guys know that.
Absolutely. And kind of taking a closer look at the approach to the 23 club, and this is really a thought that I had prior to the great news that the 23 club was coming into existence. Excuse me. My dad and I were just talking about the number you hear so much with Division I baseball, 11.7, right? And there's even a podcast out there, the 11.7 podcast. But guys, aren't going to be able to get but so much scholarship money. And then in recent years, you've heard with the impact of COVID and having 5th and 6th year guys, like
right.
You've had that impact where guys can't get any scholarship money because what's been promised to incoming guys, and you've had prominent players that are getting nothing or
right.
next to nothing, and people wouldn't believe that until they heard it, from Coach Godwin himself. So, looking at the cost of an out-of-state scholarship, I believe it's $22,000. Obviously, always increasing, and then the cost of an in-state scholarship. The number that I came up with, like if you could raise, $750,000 to $1 million, that you could make it where, in essence, people were on a full ride if you chose for it to be that way, and if that makes sense. And whatever that gap was, let's say they're getting 35%, then that 65% scholarship cost could be made up in NIL if the coach and the 23 club opted to go down that path. And obviously that individual and their family could choose to spend the money how they wanted to, but they would be getting the cost of a full ride.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity. I think Eric Bakich mentioned. I read an article when he was talking to the Clemson alumni network. He said we need $1 million. We need $1 million. That's what we need to compete. Now, Clemson and ECU are different situations a little bit, but we don't really have a number target right now. We want to be very grassroots, right? The last thing I want to do is knock on the doors of big donors every single year and say, hey, I need you to write me another big check, right? Because that's just not sustainable, number one. And number two, you're kind of walking on a tightrope year in and year out, whether you're going to get that funding or not. So as grassroots, like me, you, my alumni network, if we're giving $23 a month, right? If we're giving $50 a month, $100 a month, right? And it's something we do as part of our annual giving to East Carolina. Those numbers add up in the long run. They add up. They snowball. There's things we want to do in the future, right? So different membership tiers, different membership events, swag, all those things. We want to give back to the folks that support us as well. But we don't want it to be a hey, you're buying a hat, right? Thank you, one-time gift of a hat. Thank you. Here you go, right? We're not a merchandiser. That's not what we're trying to do as well. But, I think if we get that grassroots, if we can build that base, that's going to make a huge difference in the long run, that we can do some of those things you're talking about. Because, the scholarship thing is kind of ridiculous. I don't understand it. I've never understood it. But, it's getting more and more competitive every day for the talent that comes, the kind of talent that's attracted to ECU. So we've got to be in a position that we can help Cliff in any way possible.
And to your point, I believe, we sell over 2,500 baseball season tickets. And you've been where people have to buy those season tickets if they want to guarantee themselves, what we'll hopefully be experiencing, here in just over a week, and that's hosting another regional.
Right.
And that's something that, fortunately, under Coach Godwin and staff, has become almost an annual thing over the last 5 years or so. And kind of like Bethany Bratcher's book, who I definitely highly respect and encourage folks to buy that book and never take this for granted.
Yep.
Just like you're saying, $23 a month, that comes out to what, $276 annually. If you have your season ticket holders or other folks, who love the program, give it that level, you can do the math. I mean, with 1,000 people giving it that level, you're raising over $250,000.
It's sustainable, right? Like, that's your base. If you can get that base, if you can get it where you have the bread and butter of the program who supports our program, then the big dollars will come, right? Then the big donors will come. So all that kind of stuff kind of compounds on itself. But I know Jared and the guys at in the jungle, they say this all the time as well. Never take this stuff for granted. And now we take hosting regionals for granted, which is insane, right? I mean, like, that never happened before. And it's a big deal. It's a huge deal. It's giant for Greenville. As a baseball town, I mean, we really, really need to embrace it and do everything we can to support it and continue, at least give us the opportunity to continue to have these things happen for our program at school.
Yeah, so vital. And, going back to your era, when we had the chance to host for the very first time in 2001 in Wilson, and anybody who had the chance to experience that, gave you chills. When you saw you guys break your team huddle coming toward the dugout there at Fleming Stadium in Wilson, a heck of an atmosphere. And there's only been once that we've hosted that we did not advance, and
right.
Then, of course, in 2018, where we had some bad luck with the rain and could not use Jake Agnos the way we would have liked. But it's so critical, and the success on the field reflects it.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely gives you an advantage. And look, the Greenville crowd, the ECU baseball crowd, is second to none. I played at a lot of places. Man, it's incredible, and it's gotten so much. I played at the old Harrington field, right? I don't think some of you guys might not remember that. We had bleachers and chain link fence. That's what we had. But it was, that's how the jungle started out there. I mean, that was the start of it. I remember my dad and Charlie Martin, Tony Brown, Bill Clark. Those guys built the first set of stadium seats out there a long time ago, and to see back then when I was in middle school and high school going to games to what it is now is just completely incredible.
Yeah, like you said, the jungle truly was the jungle back in those days.
Yeah.
Standing on stacked pallets or cinder blocks, and nothing.
I don't think you need. I think it started because you didn't need tickets to go see games back there.
Right.
You just drove up behind the field and watched the game. So
yeah, save your $4 or whatever it was at the time. But yeah, nothing like leaning on the gold piping on the top of the fence and putting your forearm in some sap that's just dripped, or having some sap dripping your hair while you're watching the game. But yeah, a lot of fond memories from those days at Harrington Field. Kind of as we're wrapping the conversation up, Mike, tell Pirate Nation, as loyal supporters of ECU baseball, kind of what your vision is. You've kind of gone in that direction a little bit, but I know here in the last couple of weeks we had David Price on from Team Boneyard, and also planning on having Matt Slade on later this summer. And those guys have talked about it getting to the point where it's so big, you don't want to farm it out to just anybody. But at the same time, you guys, as we were discussing off there, you're a business owner. You have your life outside of this, so it's almost getting to the point where you need to farm it out.
Yeah, and that we're in case listeners don't know, we are part of Team Boneyard, so we're sort of a sub brand of Team Boneyard, specifically focused on baseball. So those guys do all the heavy lifting. I mean, really, for the back end stuff, and they're incredible. Hank Hinton and Matt, and talk to all these guys. I mean, they've been wonderful. They love the vision. They know what we're trying to do. I think as this thing progresses, look, this is not a Mike Harrington thing. Like I just kind of de facto became the face of it, and just working with the guys to get it off the ground. But it doesn't need to be. It's nothing about me. It's about what the program needs, and it's about creating a sustainable long-term operation that this thing survives, year after year after year. And really, obviously, Cliff has no involvement in it. He can't. This is something that us as alumni wanted to do for the program. And so it's up to us as alumni to continue it and to make sure it's operated in the most, efficient and in the best way manner to kind of achieve the objectives. So that's where we're at. Not sure exactly the next steps, for us, but we do have some things in the works that we want to do for next season. This was sort of a test season for us, see where it goes. Let's see what kind of feedback we get. And we've gotten the positive feedback. So now it's time to really, dive in and put the pedal to the metal.
There you see it on the screen as it's been scrolling throughout the conversation. 23club.org is where you can go, but tell folks a little bit more about that website and the ways that they can give.
Yeah, we have different levels. 23club.org. You can go on there, choose whatever fits your budget. You can do a custom. I think you can still do a custom amount as well. But $23 a month is really what we're aiming for. Feel like that's a really good number. Obviously, with 23, that's a little marketing tactic as well for our program. But something everybody can do. Again, build that grassroots foundation for our program. And all that money, it matters in the end. You might think, oh, well, what is that going to do? Well, at the end of the day, it adds up. And we're not football, we're not basketball. Some of these numbers thrown about in those sports is just ridiculous. Another $500 to $1,000 for a kid is a lot. It matters, right? It matters at the end of the day to help buy books. It matters to, I don't know, do they even buy books anymore, Bubba? I don't even know if they do that anymore.
That's a good question with so many online classes. Yeah.
But yeah,
just largely become a thing of the past.
Something to help them, take a little bit of the worry out, as they're playing and giving back, going to school, number one, right? Cliff's a giant academic proponent. That's why you're at ECU. Number one is to go to school. Number two is to play baseball. So we want to make sure those guys have those advantages and can concentrate on those two things.
And what a job they've done, off the field. And we've talked about the excellence that's been achieved, winning 5 straight conference titles in the regular season. Not even talking about some of those tournament championships and regional championships, but excellence in every facet in the classroom and in the community as well. So many community service hours, and then in the classroom, the string of however many consecutive semesters, maybe 5 or 6 years now of 3.4 or higher is remarkable.
Remarkable. And that's going to do more for all those guys in the long run than winning the next conference championship. Although we want to do that, right? That's a lot of you get a lot of bragging rights doing that. But getting that degree, getting yourself on the next stage of your life and your career. I mean, churning these guys, these successful folks out. I mean, long term, that's got the biggest benefit to the program than anything.
And for full disclosure, this conversation is, of course, pre-recorded, but later on today, the Pirates will be be taking on the Wichita State Shockers down in Clearwater. And some great news is, Wyatt Lunsford-Shinkman will get the ball for our Pirates.
Yeah, can't wait to see those guys. We're definitely thinking about Trey, man. We don't rush it. We want to see him get healthy for sure. Whether he plays for us again or not, I mean, he's been a tremendous asset, great guy for the program. Can't wait to see Wyatt out there and the guys hitting. I mean, what a game last game, right? 12 runs in the 8th inning. I mean, that's not on your bingo card, I don't think, is it?
Not at all. It reminded me, I was thinking once I knew you were coming on the show, it made me think of that 2004 team that was so offensive, and you guys were playing Cincinnati. And it seems like Cincinnati had some renovations going on at their ballpark and had to play at a high school field or some other stadium in the area. But you guys went up there and put up 32 runs in one game and 60 for the series.
Yeah, I think I was telling you, I never forget that game. I mean, I think Jamie Page was 7 for 7 on that last game. Just kind of incredible. It was fun. That was a really fun season. That 04 team, we kind of came in and thought we had had some good pieces, thought we were in a good position, and we kind of shot out of a cannon. Sort of like this team is doing this year. I mean, it was really fun. Don't quote me, but I think we reached 4th in the country at one point during the season.
You actually even got up to 3rd before you lost that midweek game to UNC Wilmington. But then you were able to go down to the Port City and beat them 3-0 a week or two later, and then you got the best of them in the Kinston Regional, so it evened out.
Yeah, no. So that was really fun. I never forget John Popper. We were all sitting around one time. We were like, if we win this series or this tournament, we could be number 1. And of course that didn't happen. But it was fun. That was really fun to think about. I mean, at that time, and fell a little bit short of the goal, obviously at South Carolina. But really, really fun season.
Well, really appreciate a little over a half hour of your time, Mike, and we'll definitely have you on in the future. And look forward to everything that this season and the future holds for ECU baseball, and hope to bump into you next weekend down at Clark LeClaire Stadium at the Regional.
Sounds good. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.
Pirate Nation, that is ECU baseball alum Mike Harrington from 2001 to 2004. I really appreciate all the folks at Team Boneyard and the 23 Club for all they do for ECU baseball. Really appreciate you tuning in to the Sports Objective. Be sure to follow us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and when you subscribe, click the notification bell and all so you're alerted on your device when we go live or upload new content. Follow us on social media, on X at the Sports OBJ, on Instagram and TikTok at the Sports Objective, and like and follow our Facebook page. But for Mike Harrington of the 23 Club, I'm Bubba Rosenbaum. You've been watching and listening to the Sports Objective. We'll talk to you soon. And as always, go Pirates.
You're watching the Sports Objective, the podcast for Pirates.